Okay, we're going to have our first student come up with their question.
Great.
Hello, my name is
Hi.
my, my name is Gabe.
Hi, Gabe.
Hello. I wanted to ask you, what made you interested in being an investigative reporter?
That's a great question. And I think I do feel really lucky to be able to work on a show that does investigative journalism. I had worked on some other programs before Marketplace and always thought, wouldn't it be great to be able to do a show where we expose wrongdoing and try to get answers for people and try to change things. And that's the mandate of our show on Marketplace, to expose wrongdoing and to hold governments and corporations accountable. So when I got the call, I used to work in Toronto and then I moved to Vancouver, and a woman that I'd worked on a show there with called and said, do you want to be a reporter on Marketplace? And I jumped at the chance because it's one of really a very few numbers of shows in Canada that actually gets to do investigative work. So yeah, I feel pretty lucky to be able to be on the program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Ben, and I was wondering, why did you choose to investigate lousy labels?
Okay, that's another great question. A lot of our story ideas actually come from viewers. People email us or tweet us or send me a Facebook notice or a question about something. And we noticed we were getting a lot of viewer email in particular about these products that claim to be green. Because everybody today wants to think they're doing things that are better for the environment, and polls show that Canadians are willing to spend more on things that we think are green and friendly. So we figured that that would be a good thing to investigate, to find out if people are actually getting what they're paying for, because there's been an explosion in these so-called green products, and we wanted to see if they're actually worth the extra money, because in general they cost more than the competing products that don't claim to be green.
Cool. Thank you very much, Miss Johnson.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah Brown.
Hi, Hannah Brown.
What is the percentage of the companies that say no to your phone calls or interviews?
Ha ha ha. Increasingly, more and more companies are refusing to do interviews with us. When I started on the show about 10 years ago, companies would give us interviews, not always, but more often than not. And today it's the opposite. Fewer companies will talk to us than won't talk to us. And I think that's unfortunate because, a lot of these companies take our dollars. They purport to be selling good products. They should be willing to stand behind them and talk a little bit about the ingredients that go into them or how they're manufactured. We find the same thing with government officials too. If we try to get some kind of feedback from Health Canada or Environment Canada or the Competition Bureau, more and more they will say, well, send us your questions in an email and we'll answer with an email statement. And to which we always say, well, we're the public broadcaster. We think people deserve answers to questions. You should come on and do an interview. But increasingly they won't. And I actually think there's a trend now. A lot of these people that work at big companies, they have media trainers that come in, especially before a big interview, and they'll be trained up and they'll be told, only give your message. Just keep saying your message over and over and over. Don't answer her questions. Don't even really listen to her questions. Just try to frame it so that you get the message out that you want to give. And again, I think people see through that. You've probably watched interviews before where they stand with their hands. I'm trying to show you. You can see, their hands are like this because they've been trained that if you talk like that, that's very trusting and open. You'll see politicians doing that with their hands all the time. And they'll stand in a certain way to look authoritative, but they're not actually answering questions. So that's the long answer to your question. I think more and more companies should be willing to stand behind their products, and so should elected politicians. They are elected by the public, and they should be willing to answer a few questions. But increasingly, that's not the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hannah Brown.
Hi, I'm Eliza.
Hi, Lisa.
If companies know that if somebody checks their ingredients, they would get caught, Why do they lie? Like, are their ingredients cheaper or anything?
You know, that's interesting. And you watch the program Lousy Labels, right? And on a lot of products, like cleaning products, you don't have to list the ingredients. So unless you're a marketplace researcher who's checking the ingredient list, we had to send products away to a lab to be analyzed, and that's hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars to do that. So for one, companies can hide behind this legislation that allows them to not have to list what's actually in the products they're asking you to buy. And then secondly, there's wiggle room in their claims. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but in some of the products they'll claim, they are environmentally friendly, and then they would say, well, that means we're friendlier than the competition, so we're only a little bit bad, but we're not as bad as they are. So they use these very vague phrases that aren't regulated either. Companies can claim to be natural, and what does that mean? It means whatever the company wants it to mean. So there's a lot of gray area. Companies, of course, don't think they're going to be caught by Marketplace or really by anybody else. So there's a lot of stuff they get away with, and to be honest about it, there aren't a lot of government inspectors left doing the role that they used to be able to do. There have been cutbacks at the federal level, and so companies, when they make false claims, even if somebody complains about it, more often than not, it takes months and months and months, or sometimes even years, if there is any follow-up at all by a federal regulator. And then what do they get? A slap on the wrist, and in the meantime, they've been selling their product with all these bogus claims. So they sort of laugh their way all the way to the bank and say, well, it was worth making this big bogus claim because now we've cashed in, and even if they force us to fold, we've already made all of our money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Wesley.
Hi, Wesley.
My question was, can you sue a company for making false claims?
You can sue a company for making false claims. The problem with that is, as I mentioned, there's a lot of wiggle room. And so a company will say, well, actually, Wesley, that wasn't a false claim. You misunderstood our message. And, we didn't really mean to be making this claim. The other problem with suing a corporation, how deep are your pockets? I don't know how much allowance you make or if you've got a part-time job, but these companies have teams of lawyers and very deep pockets often. So it's very hard to sue and win. And then if you do sue, you have to prove that there was harm caused. So maybe you could say, well, I'm out $4.99 because I bought this cleaner that I thought was environmentally friendly. But so they might give you $4.99 back. But, unless you can make a case that something has directly harmed you or had an impact on your life in a negative way, you're not going to have much of a claim. So the truth is, to my knowledge, I'm trying to think, have people actually sued companies? There have been cases, where people have purchased companies or consumed products that are cancer causing, and in those cases they do class action lawsuits, but at an individual basis it's very tough to take on a company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mikhail.
Hi, Mikhail.
I was wondering what's the best way to find out if green items are not actually green?
You have to become a marketplace researcher. That's what you have to do. It's very hard. First of all, of course, you look at the ingredient list of a product. If you're looking at cleaning products, there is no ingredient list more often than not. Sometimes the better companies willingly list what's on their products, but more often than not, it doesn't say anything. It's just claims about how it's going to make your hair shiny and fluffy and give you great breath or whatever, but there's no ingredient list. So if it is there, of course, sometimes even when I read ingredient lists, I don't know what those ingredients are. There is a fabulous website. The Environmental Working Group in the States is a big research team, and they put a lot of their research online. And you can type in the name of a product, and it will tell you its risk factors, whether it's a safe product, a chemical, I should say. An ingredient, they'll tell you what effect it might have on the body, if it affects your lungs or your skin, or if it's benign and it's perfectly fine. So it's really hard to tell when companies are claiming their things are green. It's hard to know. Eventually consumers, if enough people catch on to a product, and reveal that it's bogus, and there's an online campaign. I think social media has a great role to play today. I'm sure you guys have all seen websites about, ihatemycar.com, and you go in and you complain about your whatever make of car you're driving, and once enough people start saying, well, I've got the same problem, my engine keeps failing, then it forces the automobile maker or what have you to have a recall. So, there are mass movements, and you can use social media now to make complaints and force companies to tell you more about their products than they are willing to do on an individual basis. But I think that's really a growing movement, and we're going to see more of that, as kids like you, young people, use social media so much better and more efficiently and more effectively than the rest of us. So I think that's a positive sign, and it's an avenue that you can actually try to force companies to change, and you can shame them publicly if they're not producing good products, or if they're not giving you good customer service. There's all kinds of things you can do along those lines publicly.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Are there chemicals that help the environment instead of harm it?
Well, you're the science class, so I think I can't purport to know all chemicals and how harmful or how good they are. We do need chemicals, of course, in our world. You can't drive cars without certain chemicals. There's machinery and really important things and innovations that we need in our world all rely on chemicals that have been invented. So our research is not anti-chemical. It's just, if you're going to use chemicals in your products, be transparent about what they are so that we can make choices and decide if we want to expose ourselves or our families, our friends to those things. So, there are some chemicals that are going to be helpful and others that are detrimental. And more there are movements to try to force companies to not use chemicals unnecessarily. There is oftentimes companies will use things that will help them mass produce items very quickly or more cheaply, but they're causing great harm to the environment. And increasingly, I think people are starting to say they're willing to pay a few cents more for a product to have it manufactured more cleanly. And, we only have one Earth, and we all know that it's in trouble and that global warming exists. And so we've got to do all we can to try to make choices when we can, and to try to encourage companies to do their best as well to be green citizens.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
So I was wondering, can a product actually be 100% eco-friendly?
That is a good question, because in order for a product to be created, it requires energy, right? So you could argue that anything that's manufactured is not eco-friendly because it has sucked up resources in some way. Trees have had to be, cut down or what have you. So, I think everything takes some energy. The key is, though, in making environmental choices for things. And if there are two options, and this is why the companies in the story you just watched on Marketplace are making green claims. They know more and more that we want to try to be environmentally friendly, and they're trying to cash in on that. And what we don't appreciate is when these companies try to hoodwink us into buying things that aren't actually as green as they claim. So, are there any products that are 100% pure? No. But there are certainly products that are better than others, and the more we buy them and support them, hopefully, that will create a window or an opportunity, another market that companies will see as attractive, and more companies will follow suit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Erica. That's it for our questions. Again, as was the case last year, we really appreciate you supporting us as we look at trying to tackle issues, and we love your show. We know it is cutting in that it does make people more accountable, and that's what we're trying to do with these young kids here at the school too.
Well, it's fantastic. Hey guys, I really appreciate all the questions that you had for me today. It's fantastic that you care about this stuff and that you want to learn more. And a big hand to your teacher as well for encouraging discussion and getting you guys thinking about stuff.
Have a wonderful day, Erica.
Thanks so much. You too. Take care, guys. Bye.